Hello everyone, Eric Chappelle from Autodesk here for today's webcast, which is the InfraWorks Design Slam Postgame show. With me today, I've got the contestants from our postgame show. Chris Dubois from VHB, Dan Ilian from David Evans and Associates, and Matt Wunsch from AI Engineers. We've got a kind of a special edition of our webcast series today, and I'm going to give you some of the details here in just a moment. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you a little bit about our webcast series. This is something we do twice a month. We try to shoot for the first and third Wednesdays of the month, and the goal here is typically to bring we're typically talking about our products, and a lot of times we're hearing from one of the product team members, the folks that actually make the software. And now today, as you can guess, it's a little different. We're going to be talking about some Autodesk customers and some of the great things, not only that they did during a contest that we had at Autodesk University, but also some of the great things they do every day with Autodesk software. Our goals, though, in general with this series, and we want you to keep checking back and seeing what we're presenting here, we want to give you information about our product features. A lot of times our primary products we're talking about are InfraWorks and Civil 3D, but there are others as well. We've talked about Revit and Recap and Navisworks and vehicle tracking. You know, whatever's relevant to the kinds of things that you folks do is something we definitely want to talk about. So it's also a chance for you to ask questions and provide feedback about, you know, where Autodesk is coming from. And then just generally speaking, a way to bring our users a little closer together with the makers of our software. I think today's session is a little more about bringing the users of our software a little closer with some really recognized power users of one of our products, InfraWorks. And I've known the three gentlemen you're going to talk to today, and I can tell you they're some of the best InfraWorks users out there. So pretty amazing the things that they do with the product. Our next webcast is on parking lot design with Autodesk vehicle tracking. This is going to be presented by Nigel Peters. If you tuned in on his last webcast, he went over the turning analysis. He is the man when it comes to vehicle tracking. There isn't anyone on earth that knows more about that product than he does. So if you want to learn how parking lot design works with vehicle tracking, you definitely want to check that out in 2 weeks. Same time, same place, 2 weeks from now. You'll be seeing the registration link in your email because you registered for a webcast. You get on our email list. And also the various locations below that in the bullets that you see, the community site, InfraWorks forum, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. So you'll have multiple ways to find out how to register for that webcast. Let us know what you want to see in this webcast series. You've got a questions panel in your GoToWebinar interface. Feel free to enter something in there that you'd like to see in an upcoming webcast, and we'll add that to the list, and it will certainly be considered as we set out our program for the remainder of the year and for years to follow. By the way, this webcast series has been going now. Next month, it'll be 3 years running, so that's pretty amazing. I want to tell you about our community center. It's civil-community.autodesk.com. You can go here anytime. It doesn't require you to, sign up or anything like that, although you can log in with your Autodesk credentials and get some kind of extra functionality. But this is like a central hub for everything that has to do with Autodesk civil infrastructure products. So news about the products, the forums feed into here, our customer gallery. Some of the folks on this webcast today have submitted projects to the gallery. We even feature a gallery project every week. We have our gallery project of the week, which is chosen. I see a question pop up. Is it possible to watch old webcasts? Absolutely is. There's a whole library of them on the community site. You can watch every single one of them right there. So you can imagine twice a month for 3 years, we've got quite a library going, and you're welcome to log into the community site and watch any of those. You'll see what's trending, what are people talking about at a given time, whether it's through social media or blogs or what have you. You can read and submit ideas for how to improve our products. You can look at the roadmap articles that our product managers post. get a little view into the crystal ball as far as what's coming in future releases. And there's tons of learning material, tips and tricks material, which tends to be shorter, and then learning material like entire 1-hour classes that teach you a more complex workflow and that sort of thing. Definitely want to bookmark civil-community.autodesk.com and check that out every day. In the event that we talk about or see or show anything that's forward-looking, meaning it's a sandbox product or a labs project or just something that Autodesk is working on but hasn't yet released, this is just a disclaimer stating that there's basically there's no guarantee that anything you see is going to be in a future release until you actually see it in a fully supported future release. So don't make any purchasing decisions on anything that you see that we designate as something we're working on or that may be in a future release. We encourage you to ask lots of questions. We're going to have opportunities throughout the webcast to hear from our panelists, the folks who are a part of the contest. So I'd love to have some questions from you folks to ask them, and they would enjoy that too. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and roll into our presentation, which is about the InfraWorks Design Slam, and we're going to review the Design Slam and talk to the contestants about what happened. So I realized that a lot of people on the call weren't there for the Design Slam and don't even know what we're talking about, and this is my opportunity to fill in. And I'm going to start with a little video here that is a trailer that we've been using for the webcast. So what actually happened at the Design Slam? Well, it happened at Autodesk University in Las Vegas on November 15th, 2017. We had 3 contestants, Dan, Chris, and Matt, who you're about to meet. And we allowed them to bring their own content with them on a hard drive. So they weren't allowed to bring a model with them. They weren't allowed to bring an InfraWorks model. But they could bring pretty much anything else they wanted on a hard drive, with the idea being that they were going to bring some pre-built content, models of things, and the big detail that I failed to mention, this is going to happen on the design was going to happen on Mars. So you can imagine their imaginations went wild as far as designing on another planet in another world, and that's exactly what we were hoping for. And this all tied into the HP Mars Home Planet program. If you've never looked into that, it's pretty cool. HP was a major sponsor. In fact, they gave away the final prize for the winner of the Design Slam, and they were a big part of this, so it all tied into their Mars Home Planet program. We gave them a basic InfraWorks model of the surface of a portion of Mars. It actually happened to be the landing site of the Curiosity rover. You can see in the top image on your screen there the initial model they were given. Just a basic topographic model. We threw some stuff on there just to make it interesting. Some of the folks just erased that and brought in their own stuff, but other folks, used some of that. You'll see how that went. And we gave them 3 5-minute rounds, and the idea was for them to focus on a certain part of the design in each round. So round 1 was about the Spaceport area, round 2 was about the commercial district, and round 3 was about residential. And what we wanted them to do was recreate Las Vegas on the surface of Mars. That was their plan, and it fit very nicely because we were in Las Vegas. So these guys had a total of 15 minutes. That's it. 3 5-minute rounds to design basically a small city. And the amazing thing about this is that they were able to pull it off. And then what we asked them to do is create a storyboard video. And if you're familiar with InfraWorks, you know what that is. If you're not, it's a very fairly easy way to take your 3D model of your project and present it to somebody in video form, whether you're flying through or walking through or just moving around in the project, to actually use video to tell a story. So we asked them at the very end to give us a 30-second tour of their project via storyboard video and talk us through it, and that's what they were judged on at the end. So my first question for you guys is, tell me about what it was like only having 5 minutes to complete a part of the design. And actually, let's do this. I realize I never asked you guys to introduce yourselves, so let's do that first. And let's start with Chris. Chris, why don't you tell us, you know, what your role is in your company, and a little bit about how you got started using InfraWorks.
Sure. I work for VHB up in our New Hampshire office, and I'm responsible for creating our visualization workflows and doing a majority of our large-scale visualization work. My boss came to me and said, hey, we have this neat program that will allow us to go ahead and create some of our infrastructure quicker and allow us to then push it out to Civil 3D. We should give it a go. And we've just sort of picked up and started running with it and tried to do our best to create as much of our preliminary projects as we can inside of the program.
Awesome. Dan, tell us about what you do in your company and how you got started with InfraWorks.
Yeah, so I work for David Evans and Associates. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. I've been with the company now for 8 years, right out of college. I'm a civil design task lead, so I work primarily on civil projects, highway interchange projects, light rail projects. I work on a lot of multi-use trail and trailhead projects. So I kind of do the whole gamut of civil transportation design. And InfraWorks was about 4 years ago. I saw when it wasn't even called InfraWorks yet. I think it was called Infrastructure Modeler. Mm-hmm. And I thought it looked neat. And I came up to a project manager and said, hey, can I try this on a project? He asked the client. The client said no. My PM came back to me and said, do it anyways. So I did it on that project, ended up developing an amazing model that the client loved, the public loved, and really I've used it on every project since then. That was about 4 years ago.
Wow. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and jump to my next question. And let's start with you this time, Dan. How did you go about preparing content for the contest? Not only am I going to ask you to answer this, I also want you to go ahead and share your screen and kind of walk us through some of the things you did. So I'm going to make you presenter.
Mm-hmm.
And would you please do that for us? So you now have the ability to share your screen.
Cool. So yeah, most of my content, to be honest, was developed in SketchUp. I use SketchUp quite a bit. Actually, because I was drawn to doing these visualizations even before InfraWorks, I used to use SketchUp to develop visualizations of my roadway projects 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I'm going to show you here, for those that saw the contest, is actually how I brought in the space-like feel into InfraWorks. I'm going to kind of show you what I did, but SketchUp is kind of the platform where I built a lot of my content, the buildings, the infrastructure, and most of it was utilizing SketchUp's free 3D warehouse. For those that don't know that it's available, you can access it online, you can access it through SketchUp, and there's models, tons of models that you can download into SketchUp, modify them and adjust them to be what you want. So we actually see here as a giant globe ball that, if I navigate inside, has a texture of space and stars inside. So I kind of, this got me thinking. I saw this and it got me thinking about how I could potentially utilize this to adjust the sky in InfraWorks. And so I'm going to really quickly show, this is a kind of a mock-up of the model that I created for the Design Slam that's popped up right now. And so all I did is I exported that file, that globe, out of SketchUp as a DAE file, imported it into InfraWorks, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when I just insert it as a city furniture or as a point of interest or whatever. So essentially, if I zoom out, just inserted a giant ball that's encompassing my entire model in InfraWorks. But what you get is the feel inside that you're in space. And so that was kind of somewhat of an innovative way of how I thought about changing the way the sky looked in InfraWorks to give it more of a Mars-y feel. So kind of unique, kind of different, kind of got me thinking outside the box a little bit. So, but again, what you see in here, most of the content as far as the structures, the buildings was developed in SketchUp. I used a lot of 3ds Max as well. But for this case, since it was quicker and easier, most of it was SketchUp.
So pretty easy to get the SketchUp data in here, or how's that process?
Yeah, it's really easy. So for those that haven't used InfraWorks, there's a data sources tab that you can bring data in directly. What I typically do is on the style palette, I'll pull it over here, is under my 3D models, I'll create a folder where I import all of my content. So up here I have an AU Design Slam folder, and it's as simple as just adding a style and navigating to that, it's a DAE file. So in SketchUp you can directly export anything to a Collada DAE file. Come in here, search for that DAE, open it up, and it's available for you within InfraWorks. So really, really easy to import content, and there's a lot of different types of content that you can import to. SketchUp's just one of them. I use 3ds Max quite a bit as well. And in this scenario, I didn't go into the depths of building any animated 3ds Max content, but I do that quite a bit on my projects as well.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, Chris, same question for you. Little show and tell about how you prepared content for contests. So you now have the ability to share your screen.
Yes, so I ended up by using a lot of models out of SketchUp as well. We're a bit of a sci-fi family, so we tried to get as many Doctor Who and Stargates and the Enterprise up there in my version of Las Vegas. But one of the main focuses was I wanted to create some maglev elevated roadways, and I was able to actually do that using a design road. There we go. And if I come over here to our style palette, open this up. One of the things, I didn't want any slopes to affect this particular road in order to get that floating look. So we went ahead and set it as bridge. I removed the wall thickness, and I hid all my piers. We actually use this a lot when we want to create a road that only has a decorative feature in it, maybe a pylon, so that we can move along at a certain certain spacing. Or sometimes we have bridges where we want to create intersections, so we can build them as a road and kind of fake some of that stuff in. We're trying to get around some of the limitations of the basic program. So we just went through here, set some of our styles, and ended up with this transparent roadway feature that we were then able to just place down as a design road.
Matt, so why don't you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about what you do at AI Engineers and how you first started using InfraWorks.
Yeah, so I'm the BIM and Technology Manager here at AI. First started using InfraWorks probably 3 years ago, really just kind of dabbling with it, and it just kind of grew from there. Right now we're using it a lot for proposals, generating the 3D graphics for those.
Awesome. So I'm going to bounce the same question off of you and give you the ability to share your screen. Tell us and show us a little bit about how you prepared content for the contest, knowing that you could bring it with you and use it in your design.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I didn't have time to recreate a lot of the stuff like these guys did, but I was kind of trying to go for some of the wow factor, with some of the animated stuff. Let's see, where is it? So I brought some SketchUp models into 3ds Max and started animating it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get this model placed here. There we go. Yeah, so I was trying to go for some of the more visual stuff as far as the animation goes. One of the things I had done was a parking lot just kind of off to the side of the whole thing, and that was really just a combination of just multiple elements pulled into road style. And you know, some of the parking striping here is really just I think I took the solid box and just kind of switched the dimensions on that. Same thing with the little parking island here. And it's all one object, so it makes it real easy to manipulate.
That's great. And is that the kind of style that you could export and then bring into another project and use it elsewhere?
Absolutely, man. Like you said, we had some of that content that we could take with us, and that was all exported to JSON files and then imported into the model there.
Nice. All right. I'm going to take back the presentership here for a moment. And we'll look into our next question. What we're going to do next is kind of feature each one of you, and we're going to ask you to kind of go through 3 things while you've got the floor. The first one, actually, I'm going to play a video of that last segment of your Design Slam project where you actually had to show it to the judges, which were the audience, and kind of talk through your storyboard. So we're kind of fast forwarding to the end. By the way, I did see a question pop up about, is there a way to watch the entire Design Slam on video? And yes, there absolutely is. I'm going to show a URL near the end that you can link to a blog post that has the full video that you can watch the whole thing. So definitely, and you can read a lot more about the contest and how it went, and you know, kind of the play-by-play and that sort of thing. But anyway, for each of you, I'm going to fast forward to the end, kind of take you back to that moment when you had to present your project to everyone, and we had 400 or so people in the room. I'm sure that was pretty nerve-wracking. And you had 30 seconds. Not only you had 5 minutes, or let's put the whole thing into context. You had 15 minutes total. In the last round, you had 5 minutes. Part of that you needed to use to complete your design, but then another part you needed to use to create your storyboard that you could then play back for the audience. So you had to really manage your time well. Normally, you know, folks that do this kind of work are under pressure with time constraints, but I mean, that's ridiculous having to do all that in that amount of time. But like I said, you guys pulled it off. So we're going to play that last segment of your presentation. Then I'm going to ask you to walk us through something that you did during the contest. So, you know, you had a little time to think about what you were going to do. I'm curious, like, did it work out the way you thought? Did things go together the way you were hoping they were going to go together? And actually talk us through something that you did while you were designing during the Design Slam. And then really, the most important thing is, you know, designing something on Mars is great. It's fun. It's really cool to watch. But at the end of the day, we've all got to make money with this software, right? So we'd love for each of you to show us a real project that you've worked on or you are working on once you've shown us, you know, a little something that you did on Mars. So Chris, we're going to start with you. I'm going to start by playing the video. So we'll do that first, and then I'll change you to presenter.
So first we're going to go ahead and start off at our spaceport, where you're going to take a maglev roadway and right through the heart of downtown Las Vegas. Very sci-fi setup. Hey, is that Doctor Who? It sure is. There's Stargate over there. Spaceball 1, love it. So this is our maglev roadway, which leads us into our comfortable parking space and our comfortable residential living for the residents. Here we go. We also have a special BRT lane that we built, take you right from the spaceport. We have set up a number of food biodomes and some solar arrays. And then it's probably going to take too long to get around to it, but I've talked about it once or twice. Hey, we have that atmospheric generator right behind us.
So Chris, what I'd like to start with is show us something that you did during the contest and kind of talk us through it. I I hope flashing back to that time didn't make you too nervous. Brought back
Oh,
painful
my
memories.
goodness. Yeah, well, 5 minutes is not a lot to do stuff, and this is roughly the model that we used to build things out. At first, it was let's go ahead and quickly get some of these major components in, which took the first few minutes, and then I went to go move my scene, and I unfortunately suffered a crash. Now, it happens from time to time. All software does. It's not a big deal. You open it back up, you're right back on track. But when you only have 5 minutes, it adds just a touch of stress. So we just went through and built out those spaceports. In the next round, we got the maglev roadways installed, and then we worked out the storyboard creator, making sure to add captions and titles as we went, because as I had learned in years previous, captions and titles were important to help your audience identify where you were. But let me swing you over to a real project that we're working on. We have a project. It's going to take just a moment to load, but we have a project at James Madison University where we're constructing a land bridge over an entrance driveway, and we decided to use InfraWorks to help to meet with the architectural board to give them an idea of what the actual project was going to look like. And we also wanted to include some of our landscaping, all of our landscaping. So we ended up by loading up about 2,700 plants, which we got from a third party so that we could match the specific plants that the architect was looking for. We actually created this model in just a couple of days. The overall model comes from a Civil 3D area, and so we're able to just pop that right in place. And then in order to get our striping exactly how we want it, our lane use, we go ahead and create fills inside of Civil 3D and then export them as SDF files. This allows us to lay down various coverage areas. And as long as we have an intelligent surface underneath, it lets us lay them down right on top and get a pretty good feel how the project's going to work. Now, let's see what else. So one of the little tips and tricks that I have, this tunnel is see-through, is clear. But when you get the Civil 3D surface, you have, this is all blocked off on both sides. So we tried some of the tunneling options to go ahead and to core through that space. And sometimes it's the simple the simple things that work out best. So we actually took a 125-foot object that was 4 inches deep, just created a shape in Civil 3D, imported it into InfraWorks, and then created a terrain hole, and that actually cored the front of our tunnel out for us. And it did it very quickly and efficiently. And then we were able to just put in our, I'll swing to this side here as well. We were able to put in this fancy retaining wall on one side, all of our landscaping, and then I think the rest of our landscaping is loaded now over here, and as well as our more complex tunnel that we formed out in SketchUp.
It looks great. I mean, what was the model used for? Who did you show it to, and what were you trying to accomplish with it?
So we needed to meet with the architectural board on the campus to get approval for this particular landscape plan and the tunnel aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So this was used as part of a presentation, as well as we created an orbiting model that we're able to leave with the client at the end, so that if they wanted to see a specific area that we hadn't touched on in our stills, they were able to view that orbiting video and get an idea what that would look like.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Chris. I'm going to play Matt's closing video now.
All right, so first and foremost, I had to set the scene, so I changed the background to sepia, because it is the red planet after all. So this takes us right down the heart of the Mars Vegas Strip. Got some parking on the left-hand side. We've got the AU logo coming up here.
All right, playing.
We've got our residential biodomes, and of course our satellites to monitor the spaceport.
Give us a little look at something that you did for the contest.
So one of the things was the roundabout where the AU logo was, and that's easily done just by creating a couple of, that's not a very good road there. Creating a couple of design roads. I'm going to hide my, there we go. Creating a couple of design roads, and got a graphics issue going on there. All right.
You got to love live presentations, right?
Yeah. It's the same thing that I experienced when we were in Vegas. Had a couple issues of things not regenerating quick enough. So a couple of design roads, and then simply click on the intersection, convert it to a roundabout, which you can then adjust using all the different gizmos here.
Nice.
Make the legs longer, shorter. One of the other things I did is that, I mentioned setting the scene, making it look like the red planet, and that was just a simple click of the colorize option. It gives it that reddish sepia look.
Yeah, and that had a big impact on the look of the model. It really made you feel like you were on Mars.
And that's what I was going for.
It has a lot fewer trees than the model we're looking at now, for sure.
Definitely. All right. So this is a model that I had worked on for a proposal, and this is actually something that I think really helped us win the job. Gives the client an excellent view of what their proposed bridge could possibly look like within the context of the existing surroundings. And then from there, one thing I've been working on is taking the InfraWorks model, since we have AEC collections, taking that InfraWorks model and pulling it into 3ds Max Interactive to start to generate virtual reality experiences as well. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but the leaves on the trees there are actually moving, and those are trees from InfraWorks, so I'm not replacing trees with 3ds Max trees. This is all straight from the InfraWorks model.
That's fantastic.
So really trying to hone that workflow of taking the InfraWorks model and not having to recreate as much content in a VR experience.
So did this do the job that you wanted it to do as far as getting your design ideas conveyed to the audience that you wanted to convey it to?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, because we're using the AEC collection, we have everything we need, and it just makes the workflow so much easier.
Appreciate you saying that with the Autodesk t-shirt on, so good job there. All right, so let's take a look at Dan's video now.
So I was all about bringing the Vegas feel to Mars, and honestly, you're going to feel like you're on a ride as we zoom through this. So what I brought a bunch of the Vegas type buildings in, I created my road, and I kind of am turning it almost into a ride. As we go around here, you'll actually see the residential on the left. So I did get that in. I got the Mars feel out in space. And as we go up here, you're going to start to go into what I'm going to call a floating bridge. Sure, why not? So we're going to go up, we're going to go through the buildings. You're going to see there's a Venetian. By the way, I'm staying there. So you go up through space, through the buildings, and honestly, this was so easy. And my whole intent was to kind of make something fun, something cool, something that looked, honestly, I would like to ride this.
Well, Dan, tell us a little bit about something you did during the contest and then something real that you're working on or maybe that you did work on in the past.
Yeah, so what I was going to walk through real quick, and it's actually similar to what Chris did, is showing how I took this road that I really quickly sketched in during the presentation and kind of modified it and changed it into a floating road. So it's pretty easy. I went about it a little bit different than Chris did. Hold on. I basically selected that road that I created a bridge on after I'd adjusted the profile and just set the piers down to 0. So basically removing all the piers so that they disappeared and kind of gave me that floating road feel. And then I wanted to add something to it that kind of gave it a feel that it had some sort of thing around it that was making it float. So all I did, since this is a component road, is I created again, a SketchUp model, just something that looked futuristic, Mars-y, and imported it again as a 3D model. And then in InfraWorks, I placed a decoration, and I picked that part, double click, place it right on the center, and it's going to basically place that at an even interval. And it didn't do it at the rotation I wanted, so I just had to select them, rotate it 90 degrees, and that pretty much, as soon as it rotates, gave me that kind of bridge road feel. So really quick, really easy, kind of cool, not necessarily applicable in the design work that I do, but so, and then from that I was able to just create a storyboard. So just to show how quickly, I didn't do this ahead of time for this, but from storyboard you can create an animation from a road. So create design road, you just select the road, and then you walk through whether you want that animation to be on the center line, whether you want it to be vertically offset. So I'm just going to really quickly set that to 5 feet, not do any horizontal, and it will create your keyframes and create you a video that you can export. So just to kind of show how quick and easy it is to do an animation and actually create a presentation for it, and then from there you could play that animation. So pretty quick, pretty easy. So I'm going to hop out and show a project that I've used this on.
Okay.
Give me just a minute while it loads up.
While you're switching, I thought of a question. You know, how often, you said you use InfraWorks on almost every project. Do you use the storyboard feature pretty often to do videos?
Yeah, almost all the time. Because usually when we're using InfraWorks, the purpose is either to present to a client, present to the public, or to put together some sort of nice packaged visual of the project that we can show to other team members or whatnot. So the majority of that is done through creating storyboards and then doing some post-process video editing and other software.
Cool.
So this is a project that I did the design on. It was a relocation of a trailhead. It was some highway widening up on the mountain here in Oregon, up on Mount Hood. This was a brand new parking lot that was being designed and a new trailhead and trail. And we actually utilized InfraWorks on this project from beginning to end. So throughout the 1.5 to 2 years of design, and constantly kept the InfraWorks model updated as the design. Actually, we utilized InfraWorks in the beginning stages to do some of the design, Then as we transitioned to Civil 3D and doing our final design, we kept this updated, and it really became our discussion piece, and there's going to be a little pop-up. We also used InfraWorks to create some final renderings. So what you're seeing there is an image of the final rendering we created for a visual resource report. This will show you kind of the existing, what it looked like from this point of view. So InfraWorks was really used as a discussion piece. We used it with every stakeholder meeting that we went to, and there were a lot of stakeholders on this project. We had InfraWorks up on the screen. We talked through the design. We talked through the trailhead layout. I'm going to zoom over to the trailhead. We talked about where things could go, what would look best, where should we place the kiosk and the restroom. And I promise us people in Oregon, we don't go hiking in suits, even though everyone's wearing a suit in this image. And then the other thing we utilized it for, and there's an image going to pop up, that's me out in the field prior to construction using the InfraWorks model via augmented reality on the iPad. So it kind of really enhanced our on-site visits for this project too, when we're walking through what was, as you can see there, just woods. And then we were able to pull the InfraWorks model up and walk through the model on site. So really was quite beneficial in decision making, beneficial in getting to a final design that everyone, all the stakeholders agreed on. And yeah.
Great.
Good.
All right. Well, I'm going to change myself back to presenter. And I've got some more things to show you guys. Thanks to all three of you for doing that presentation. That was great. This is a question I'd like to, I think everyone on the call would like to know. You guys are really deep into your utilization of InfraWorks, and you've learned it to a level that's pretty advanced. What advice do you have for the folks on the call that maybe have never tried it or have only worked in it a little bit? What's the best way to get up to speed, to learn it and get to a point where you're using it in production and actually, helping your company make money? Chris, let's start with you.
Sure. I mean, I think the first step is to just use it. Go out and find a project that you can get started on, and start going through and figuring some stuff out. Great place to look would be the forums and the infra tips, all on the community site that you mentioned at the beginning of the webcast here. But that's where a lot of the basis of how we have started to learn the program all came from basically the forums.
How would you gauge the amount of time and effort it takes to learn InfraWorks versus Civil 3D?
I mean, we can have somebody started in a half a day. We sit with most users maybe for a half a day, and they're off building projects all on their own. We have a user, Danielle, who has just, we spent about a half a day with her, and she's off now building all sorts of amazing content and bridges, doing phasing construction, and really just run wild with it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Dan, how about you? What's your advice for folks getting up to speed with InfraWorks?
Well, yeah, similar to Chris, the way I learned was just doing it. And again, I was interested by it because I was always into SketchUp. And so I played around with it a little bit at home on my own. I tried to build a project that I was working on my own just to kind of see how it worked, what it took to get it in. And that really just launched me kind of to where I am now. And similar to Chris, we've got users here that I'll sit down with them for a couple hours and be able to get them off and running. Because it is really easy. I'm a heavy Civil 3D user, and it would take me weeks to get people up to the level that I am as far as Civil 3D, maybe even more. When it comes to InfraWorks, you give me a day or two, I could get somebody pretty close to my level and have them working on projects on their own. It's really intuitive. Heck, I sit at home with my now 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and I'll show him InfraWorks, and he'll kind of play around and put cards in and fiddle around with it. So if a 6-year-old can do it, then anyone can do it, right?
That's right. Matt, how about you? What's your advice?
I think these guys really kind of, summed it up. Forums are a huge place to learn everything between, yourself, Seth, Karsten, Elliot. Those guys have some great feedback, and they're really quick on getting you answers. If they don't know the answer, they'll go out and find it for you. And then there's stuff like lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning. They have a ton of great content there as well. And as far as InfraWorks versus Civil 3D, I don't think there's any comparison as when it comes to the amount of time that it takes to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I really love about InfraWorks is the user interface. It's just so sleek and minimal, but there's so much there that you can do behind the scenes.
I was going to ask this question later, but I think it dovetails nicely into this one. How do you get your company convinced to let you give it a try? I'll start with you, Matt, since you're on the horn right now.
Well, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. Just having some experience, under my belt, and I just really kind of messed around with it on one project, and I think once people saw what the output was, and what it's capable of doing, I think we do it on just about every applicable proposal at this point.
Chris, what's been your experience? How did you get your company willing to take the leap and give it a try?
There was some steps of faith that I had to take as a user. I just to work on it on a few projects that were sort of not approved to use it, didn't charge the time for it, and then brought it to the project managers and said, hey, this is one of the results that we could be getting, and we've just continued using it from there.
Dan, how about you? Similar experience?
Yeah, I think we're a little bit different than Chris. We're not a visualization firm, so it was even more difficult to pitch this. There's a lot of people see it and think it's just visualization, and don't understand that it has some very powerful engineering capabilities as well, which is what drew me to it, being a designer. So for me, it wasn't necessarily even just pitching it to my company. It was allowing my PMs to understand how to tell the clients and to show the clients that it was a benefit. And it's a benefit in a number of ways, again, depending on the project. It's a benefit with public involvement. It's a benefit with understanding the design when you've got stakeholders that may not necessarily be engineers. And it's also a benefit in that it's way more efficient than what typical visualizations would have been in the past. And you can utilize the design data you're working with every day, the Civil 3D corridors and lines and base files. You can utilize it in InfraWorks and just make it visually appealing to everyone. Mm-hmm. So once we did it on a project or two, it was really kind of a no-brainer, and the client started to see that it had benefit and honestly didn't cost as much as it looks like it should cost, is what I'll say.
Awesome. All right, we're down to our last 4 minutes, so I'm going to probably answer the question that's at least on some of your minds. So who won the contest? I'm going to play the ending sequence from the Design Slam that happened in Las Vegas, and you'll see the reveal there.
I think it's time to vote, Mickey.
Yeah, it's time for the audience to vote. All right, we're going to start with Matt, actually. So are you ready to applaud? I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and then I need you to make some noise, and we're going to measure that. That's how we're going to win. So if you really love what he pitched, 3, 2, 1, make some noise.
Very respectful.
All right. If you really love what Dan did, make some noise. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, Dan. Chris, it's down to you. If you want to vote for Chris, now is your time. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh no, oh no. I think, Dan, you got this one. All right, Dan. All right, and just, Dan, nicely done. Great applause for everybody, great job.
Great job, all contestants.
Again, someone asked earlier, is there a way to watch the full Design Slam? You can go to this URL, autodesk.com/InfraWorks Design Slam. You'll find a blog post that will tell you all about the Design Slam, and the full video is at the bottom. While you're there, you can also browse around the community center if you haven't been there before. It just so happens that yesterday we released an article that features Dan's company, David Evans and Associates, and it's about using InfraWorks in design and some other things. And Dan is even quoted in the article, so definitely want to check that out. It's on our Infrastructure Reimagined blog. The URL's at the bottom of your screen, but if you just Google Infrastructure Reimagined, you'll certainly come across the blog as well. Another reminder that our next webcast will be in 2 weeks, same time, same place, 12 to 1. We're going to get down to, this webcast was a lot of fun. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty again at the next one and learn about how to actually do parking lot design with Autodesk vehicle tracking. So you'll be learning from the best of the best, Nigel Peters. Like I said, nobody knows the product more than he does, and he'll take you through how to make that happen in Autodesk vehicle tracking. I really want to sincerely thank Dan and Chris and Matt, not just for being here today. We put them on the spot once again, shine the spotlight on them. Made them do stuff in a short amount of time with lots of other challenging aspects to it. But also, being willing to participate in the contest at Autodesk University, and for all that you guys do for the community in general. You're all on the forums answering questions. You're on Twitter. You're on, and we look to you guys a lot for opinions and feedback on what we're doing. It's just really great to have such great people out there kind of leading the charge with our community. And I know I personally appreciate what you guys do, and Autodesk in general appreciates what you do. So thank you, not just for today, but for everything that you do. For all those who tuned in today, thanks for giving us an hour of your day. I hope you found this entertaining and enjoyable and inspirational and informational, and we hope to see you again at the next webcast. So thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you next time. See ya.